Thank you very much for the invitation to address this conference. It's timely and it's important, and I am pleased to be included and to be part of it. I'm going to be drawing comments from the recent book that my colleagues and I did called The Great Transition, and it's about the energy transition. It's about shifting from coal and oil to solar and wind. And this is going to happen much faster than most people realize, partly because, or maybe even largely because, solar and wind are becoming so competitive now with coal and with oil. So we're seeing enormous growth. I think we're going to see more change in the next decade than we would expect to see in half a century. And one of the reasons is that solar panels, the cost of solar panels has now come down to the point where electricity from rooftop solar panels is cheaper than electricity being offered by local utilities. So more and more people are going to be putting these panels on the rooftops, and not just individuals, individual residences, but also factories and buildings of all sort are going to be turning in this direction. We see major companies like Google, for example, planning to go to renewables 100%, and a number of other countries have quite an impressive list in that category. With wind generation, the leader among countries is Denmark. Denmark is now getting 43% of its electricity from wind, and it will probably by this time next year be over half. So it will be the first country to get more than half of its electricity from wind. Within Germany, there are 4 states now that get more than half of their electricity from wind. So in Northern Europe, wind is really catching on. It's also beginning to catch on in the United States. 2 of our 51 states, Iowa and South Dakota in the Midwest, the Great Plains, are now getting 26 to 28% of their electricity from wind. Iowa expects to go to half within another couple of years. So we're beginning to move ahead here. The state of Texas is now getting about 10% of its electricity from wind. But more importantly, there are huge investments in Texas now in building wind farms. And some of that wind generated electricity will be used in Texas. But it's on such a scale that they're going to be exporting to nearby states like Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. So wind is really beginning to catch on in a major way. So too is solar. There in the United States, there are now 600 solar installations, either on residential rooftops or factories or warehouses or what have you. And of these 600,000 installations, 200,000 were added in 2014. So that gives you a sense of how the curve is climbing upward very fast. In Italy, wind now supplies 8% of the electricity. In Germany, it's 6%. But in 4 states in Germany, as I mentioned earlier, it's already over 50%. We're also seeing in the United States a very vigorous Beyond Coal campaign launched by the Sierra Club. And we had, a decade or so ago, 523 coal-fired power plants. 190 of those have now been closed. This leaves, I think, 333 still in operation, but the goal by the Sierra Club is to close every one of these coal plants not later than 2030, and they're going to get as many as they can by 2020. So this is a major shift in the restructuring of the U.S. energy economy, shifting from coal and oil to solar and wind. China is also making a huge shift. China is now getting more electricity from its wind farms than from its nuclear power plants. I mentioned China particularly because it's the biggest economy in the world, along with the United States. These are the two big economies. In India, they're now using solar cells to operate their irrigation pumps. They had some 26 million irrigation pumps to run, and up until now they've been running from electricity generated in coal-fired power plants. But increasingly, we're going to see the shift by individual farmers and whole villages to solar panels because they're so much cheaper than the electricity coming from the utility coal-fired power plants in India. One of the interesting things about this transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy is that there are going to be a lot of stranded assets. There are going to be a lot of coal mines just closed, no longer worth anything to anyone. No one will buy them. People are selling coal or closing coal-fired power plants, but no one is buying them. So they're being written off as major losses on the company balance sheets. We're also seeing a number of billionaires investing in solar and wind energy. And this is interesting because this is the smart money. I mean, these guys got to be billionaires because they know how to invest and where the winning investments are. Among these are Warren Buffett, probably the wealthiest person in the United States. He had invested $15 billion in renewable energy, mostly solar energy, but also wind, several years ago. And then I think it was last year, he added another $15 billion to be invested in renewable sources of energy. Phil Anschutz is from Denver, Colorado, and he made his fortune. He made his billions with coal and oil, mostly developing them in the nearby state of Wyoming. But now he's building a huge wind farm in Wyoming, about 3,000 megawatts. This will make it one of the biggest wind projects in the world. And he's also building a 700-mile transmission line that will take that wind-generated electricity from Wyoming, which is a wind-rich state, to California, which has a population of 38 million. So this is private investment. This is being done based on the economics of the situation. Another person who's investing in renewables in a major way is Ted Turner, and he's investing he now has, I think, 7 solar plants in the southwestern United States, and he's got many more on the drawing board. So we have Warren Buffett, Phil Anschutz, Ted Turner, among the many billionaires who are now investing in big time in renewable sources of energy. One of the other interesting things about this shift to solar and wind energy is it's going to create a lot of jobs and new jobs, new types of jobs. The petroleum geologists and the coal engineers are pretty much history now, and young people in college today are beginning to major in things like solar physics and in the technologies needed to capture and transmit solar generated electricity. So we're seeing the need for solar engineers and wind businesses beginning to develop and create new sources of employment for young people. So it's going to be a very exciting area to be working in. And I feel privileged having been invited to address this conference. I want to again thank Gilberto Rincon for helping to arrange this for me, and I wish you all the best of luck. I think this conference gives a sense of where the world is now heading. And again, the final point I would make is to repeat what I made earlier, which is this is going to happen very fast. This transition from coal and oil to solar and wind. It's going to happen fast because the economics are beginning to drive this in a major way. And also because the great thing about solar energy and wind energy is that it makes no difference how much you use today because it doesn't have any effect on how much is available tomorrow. That's not true with oil and coal. The more oil and coal you use today, the less is available for tomorrow. With wind and solar, that's not the case. So these are some of the reasons why I think we're going to see a very rapid transition from coal and oil to solar and wind. It is, I think, the most exciting thing in my lifetime, and that's why my colleagues and I did the book, The Great Transition, the shift from fossil fuels to solar and wind energy, because we think it's where the action is now, and it's where the world is headed. It's where our future is. Thank you.